Welcome once again to another photobook critique. Now, this is your first time watching one of these. This is where I take a photo book from a 48 or 46 idol and take a look at it from the perspective of a photographer, not a fan. So any harsh criticisms are purely photography-wise. It has nothing to do with the idol or my ideal thoughts about the idol. Again, like a photographer and not like an idol fan. And today we have this book right here, which is Iriyama Anna's Beautiful Sin photo book. First, let's start with the cover. Now, this is a really interesting concept. This isn't something you usually see in idol books. It's her kind of like sticking her hand in her mouth. I don't know what it's supposed to represent, but it does look pretty cool and kind of artsy. But it still keeps that stylistic lighting and posing to it, which is really interesting to me. Looking at the back, we can see another cool image, this time using the curtains from the lights coming in and kind of creating shape all across her body, which add interest to the photo. And also something smart with the posing in this one is that it still has that womanly shape to it, even though she put her legs up. Now looking at the inside cover, I actually haven't seen this yet, and this is actually pretty interesting. I like where they're going with this. It's kind of cool that they did it in black and white as well. I imagine that might be because the background was too distracting, so the black and white really draws the attention in on her instead of the background. And on the back, you keep it black and white. It's a very fun photo. It adds a lot of personality to the book. This shows like her style, shows that she wears glasses, she's a little nerdy, but yet she's sexy and fun, right? That kind of atmosphere to it. And let's see what kind of special photo we got. That's a special photo we got. I'm not 100% pleased with it. And since this is more for a fan than a photographer, I mean, this is something a fans could really enjoy. And me personally, I don't see this picture really being worth getting it in card form. There's plenty of other photos in the photo book that would be more worthy to have a little printed copy of. So let's go ahead and go right into the photo book. So first shot, as always, should be one of the better shots, if not the best shots. And I mean, the front cover was kind of the best shot, so I guess they did good in that respect. But they still need to have the inside cover once you buy the book actually good, because I mean, people are paying money for this, remember. But this image, to be honest, is not bad. Even with the blown highlights and everything, it is not bad at all. It's actually pretty interesting. It kind of sets the mood for everything. And it kind of also helps with the cover, with it being a little bit unusual. This is a little unusual as well, being right in the center, while all the distraction in the background. But I think that really all adds together and makes for a pretty good photo. This is an example of what happens when you shoot in the shade, but still show some sun in the photo. As you see right here, here's some of the sun, and it's totally blown out. Like there's no detail. You can't even tell there's a wall over there. They could have gotten a brush in Photoshop and just like colored it white. Wouldn't be a difference. So maybe it would have been smarter to shoot this a later or earlier time of day. That way the sun wasn't so prominently there. Because I mean, judging from where the shade is, it's somewhere around here, and the sun means that it's over here somewhere. So I'm not too sure which side would be east and which side would be west in this case. It seems like this might be a little bit earlier in the morning. It wasn't early enough where all the sun was coming in. So in this case, it would have been better to wait until later in the day so the shade goes this way and then all of this is in shade. Which is something I have to bring up. This was actually shot in 2 days instead of the 3 that were scheduled. Thanks to Kenneth, who was on my live stream on Monday about learning Japanese, which you can go watch in the link down below. He actually told me that this was shot in 2 days because she forgot her passport going to the airport, so they had to reschedule the whole thing. Interesting thing that happens, and kind of what happens if you rush everything in 2 days, which kind of shows in this photo book, to be honest. Now I want to talk about this photo right here. Shows a lot of personality. Doesn't do anything really for me photography wise. I mean, the light is nice on her face because she's in the shade again. And there will be a theme, and this sets the theme about how there will be a lot of food in this photo book. I think like a quarter of the pictures are actually about food. And also I kind of like her face on this one. It shows like a surprising, like, what are you trying to say kind of face. Now this photo, really, really great. Really environmental portrait, and I really like it. It's her just sipping away at whatever she's eating, and all this decoration in the background just adds to the scene, tells the whole story based on the restaurant. I mean, you see this fan right here with people over here, and you see all the stuff under this, what seems to be like a stairway or something. But then that's all in the distance, all this distracting stuff. And then over here we get a little bit simpler but then her smack dab right there in the lower third of the whole image, and it just being interesting, catching your eye, especially with the hair being black and with the white background, and her wearing white. Then again, it kind of adds this like nice contrast levels to it. And you guys know how I feel about this, you know, there's like 1 second apart. But I mean, in this case, it was meant to be fun. But if you look at it from one image to another, it kind of looks like the car is getting closer and closer and it's about to hit her. This image right here, I mean, if you want to be artsy the whole way. Don't be half artsy and then like throw in something in there that was a mistake and be like, oh no, that could be classified as artsy, because this one right here, this is just a blurry image that was an extra. This isn't artsy. I mean, if the rest of the images were a little like the style, then you would be thrown into the artsy category. But in this case, it's just kind of looks like an outtake, really. I mean, first of all, you're out of focus. Second of all, your shutter speed is slow. I mean, it's so sunny over there. You must have put a neutral density filter or something in order to do this. And we continue with the blurry pictures. This one looks unintentionally blurry because of one reason. This mailbox. This mailbox is in focus, which means that the photographer was getting focus while she was running, and he got too ahead of himself and snapped at that focus point instead of snapping at her. I feel like they really tried their best with this image. I feel like if you're not in the shade or have a giant diffuser over the person, it's really hard to get a nice clean shot, especially during this harsh sun. The fact that they turned the face upwards where the sun is actually a really good detail that a lot of people should do when they're shooting in the sun, because that way the shadows don't become all nasty in the face and you actually get a little bit more of a shape to the face. But that's not always, that's just in this situation. I want to talk about this image right here. We always get this like weird pool distortion kind of image. I feel like some other photo books pulled it off better, and this is one of those examples where it wasn't pulled off as strong as it could have. Again, what usually happens, head shows up regular, body shows scrunched up, so it looks like a weird disfigured person, which Iriyama Anna is not. This image was shown in promotional material, and I have to say this is a really fun and playful one, while the light staying nice. As you can see, it's very soft light, so they must be like right next to the opening. If it was a door opening maybe, then I would understand, because all the light would be coming from a large area so close to her that it causes this soft light. As you can see right here, there's a nice soft shadow. It isn't so hard edged like the other pull ones we were looking at. And with this, you can actually see more of a soft shadowy face, which is more appealing, especially for women. And plus the lake thing kind of like adds a little bit of more characteristic to it. And another blurry one. If I were to count all the blurry ones, I think I'd spend more time on that than actually critiquing the photo book. This image right here, one of my favorites, hands down. I mean, just looking at, this is like almost monotone. It's like white and then black and then kind of dark brown. This just complements each other so well. I mean, this tells a story. The colors are great together. The lighting is great. The posing is good. There's characteristics to it. Just looking at it, I mean, this whole scenario tells you food and where she's at, kind of adding a little bit of that element to it. But then also her dress combining with all the white in the restaurant coming from the lights, as well as some of the cabinets and stuff they have inside with the food. And also the black coming from the shadows because it's so dark inside, because they're standing right at the edge of the shade, causing all the light to spill on her, causing for this nice, beautiful lighting. Here's an example of how to avoid the nasty sun, and that's with an umbrella. This is a good way to kind of add shade and cause a little bit nicer shadows to the face. And it kind of matches with what's going on in this picture. And here we go, continue eating photos. And this one is actually pretty cool. I haven't really looked at it technically yet, but looking at it now again, I can see that it's definitely very nice. This place must have huge windows all around because the lighting is nice all around her. I mean, comparing to some other images that were indoors earlier, this image definitely has better lighting. And also something that helps with the lighting is this nice steam coming out from the dumplings. That is because when the light comes through the smoke, it actually diffuses even more. So ignoring the large windows, just by the smoke alone adding diffusion, and then adding in the windows, then that's even more diffused, which is why you get this nice soft lights all around her, which causes it to be really good looking. And plus I like how she's kind of like has her tongue out and then the dumplings right there. it tells the story all in itself. I don't even need to describe it for you to get it. And here we go again. We can actually see the photographer is actually moving around and getting different shots, which is a good sign because usually some people just stand in the same spot and just get it and what they want to go for. It's super good to be creative and walk around a little, see what kind of different shots there are, and kind of like release that little bit of cockiness you have saying, no, this is the good shot. I'm just going to stay here, kind of walking around and trying new things, really. This image right here, this is just way too distracting. I mean, where they cut it is pretty bad, to be honest. I mean, the focus is on her bangs. That's the only thing on focus. Where they cut it in the middle, it makes her look like some weird, like, I don't even know, like some accident, really. Now, I want to talk about this image. Now, there are plenty of more images like this, but you have to check out the photo book for yourself and see the rest of them, because I want to talk about this one right here, which really attracts me in a photographic kind of way. Photographic? Is that a word? This one is the opposite of what the other ones have been doing, which is adding light. This one's taking away light. And that's by this little silhouette that's going on. It's hiding some of the story from the picture, which really adds to the story in general. With this, the shadow is hiding where it needs to be hidden, and the light just highlighting to see who the subject is, which is really nice. It's kind of hard to do this, especially in a hotel environment, because of the walls, so many different elements that distract from doing this kind of silhouette work. So huge props, especially with just the light being rimmed around, especially difficult, big props. Now, this image right here is pretty interesting to me, and that's because of 2 to 3 things, really. First up, hair looks great. Second of all, pose is pretty good. Third of all, this environment is really interesting. Now, this pose, usually men have this type of pose with the hands a little bit different. In this case, it's a little more feminine than what the guys usually do. It adds like a sort of like toughness, kind of like confidence to the photo. And combined kind of with the hairstyle and the dress, it kind of complements each other very well in a very like juxtaposition kind of way. This image right here, I'm not too sure whether she would have been better on this side versus this side. I understand why they put her there, because they wanted to show the windmills right here. But I don't know whether if the dress would cover the windmills when she would stand there, because I think it'd be interesting if she was looking into the empty space instead of looking off to the end of the book. Now, this image right here was intentionally blurred, and you can tell because back here is more clear than the faces over here, which means that they blurred it on purpose. I imagine it's to hide faces, but as we've seen in other photo books, they're okay with showing faces. But in this case, they aren't, which is a pretty interesting thing to see, because everywhere else we've seen, the faces have been clear and they've even taken pictures with locals. But in this case, they blurred it, probably no permission. It's very obvious that it's been done, which I think doesn't really work for a photo book. I mean, you do what the boss tells you, right? If you have to blur out a face, you blur out a face. This one right here looks like a mistake, and that's because they had a flash on, and then they took a picture, shutter speed was slow, and then you caused this nice blur over here, but yet the face is still sharp, because the face was still, but then she was throwing the ball, shutter speed slow, but flash is there, capturing the still, and I'm getting too complicated again. But basically, the shutter speed was slow, and it's kind of obvious with the hand and with everything else going on. Here's one where we have no concept really of what's going on. All we have is a face. And with the sad face, she's looking at food, but it doesn't really explain why. I mean, is she sad because she's alone because of this picture? Is she sad because of the food? I mean, there's really no thing to tell me what's going on. It just looks like the photographer said, make a sad face. Made a sad face, and that was all. This image right here is actually pretty cool. This is like a nice detail shot of her eyebrow slash bang slash hair. And the reason why I like it is because she's covered up in the blankets, coming out with a little bit of light coming in. This is very like moody lighting, very dark and contrasty while staying soft. And it kind of tells its own story. You could imagine different things with the scenario. This could be like a horror story. This could be a drama, romance. It could be so many things. Just like this, it's fine on its own. I feel like they did a good job with this, and including it in only benefited. Another thing I like about this, there's no white spaces to distract from all of this shadow over here. Very good. This image right here, I kind of wondered what would happen if you up the exposure just a tad bit while keeping those blacks down. I mean, because this has the potential to be a very good image. The pose is very natural, but kind of showing that confidence once again, just like the other image. And I don't know, I just really like how close the source of light is to her, that everything just falls into shadow very quickly. As you can see over here, it's almost black, which means that the light source again was very close and it causes the nice lighting to it. Now I want to talk about these images. These images kind of look very different compared to everything else. This is like, all right, we have no more location stuff. I guess we'll shoot in my studio for a little bit. I bought this new ring light. I want to try it out. And then they took some pictures. Personally, I'm not a fan of the ring lights. I can understand its uses in beauty, but in this case, this is kind of more fashion-y, portrait-y, kind of boudoir-like. But just looking at it, it's not bad. It's good for women usually because all the wrinkles and all the shadows from the face go away. But then again, you don't get a lot of shape. But thanks to Iriyama, she has a lot of shape in her face. So in this case, the ring light isn't that bad, although she does kind of look different from the rest of the photo book. This is more like a fashion-y kind of picture. Meanwhile, the other ones were a little bit more homey. If you look at those group of images, they're actually very good for fans. Definitely pick those up and look at it in your hands. Times 100 better than looking at it online, trust me. Now this one right here is another interesting concept because it's keeping that theme with the shadows that we saw earlier in the bedroom and with these recent pictures of the ring lights. So I think nearing the end of the photo book, it seems to be a little bit darker than compared to the beginning where it was more colorful and more full of light. Seems kind of studio-like because this light reflecting off of the water kind of seems like a softbox. But what I do like about it is the rim lights on the face, kind of showing the details of the face, but yet not telling the whole story, and how the water reflects with the whites of whatever she's wearing, and then kind of showing off that skin of hers. It's very much a detail shot and not a lot of concept to it, but it does look pretty. And remember how I talked about the softbox? I was wrong, because apparently it's just a giant window, which would make sense because windows are shaped the same, which is kind of where the idea of softboxes came from. What did I say? Softboxes? But yes, this image right here is kind of the same idea of what happened before with the, next to the light source, shadow falls off very drastically. I mean, if you look from right here, her eye is very close to the window, but then like right next to it, just black. That's how fast the fade off is, and that's how soft the shadows are. Again, very nice lighting. And I also like how there's a reflection too, but it's very faint, like that. And this is the last image. It's very fun, very kind of out there, and this is the same place with the windmills, as you can tell. And this is kind of like sending you off. It's not the best image, but it's a nice feel-good image to be like, yeah, that was my photo book. I hope you enjoyed. And that has been the photo book for Iriyama Anna's Beautiful Sin. Now, this photo book has a lot of good things to it and a lot of bad things to it. When I first saw it, I was a little negative towards it, just looking at it real quick. But then really analyzing it and digging deep into it, there are really a lot of good images in there that kind of show up at the end usually and kind of mix well together. I feel like if they stuck with the things they wanted to shoot instead of doing the tropes that they usually do, like swimming pool and eating and all that, I feel like they could have gotten a really, really good photo book, and also having the extra day would have helped a lot. This is definitely a photo book to look for, especially if you're a fan of AKB48 or even Iriyama Anna, because the photos in this are actually very attractive, and from a fan's perspective, definitely pick up this book. From a photographer's perspective, you can't pick up the book if you're a fan of Iriyama Anna, and if you're a fan of AKB and collect photo books. Thank you all for watching. You can check out last time's photo book, which was Sakurai Reika's from Nogizaka 46. And also on Monday, I did a live stream about learning Japanese. To watch more idol programs or read photo book interviews and other stuff with Kenneth, who actually did the translation for Sashihara Reino's book. So be sure to check that out. You can subscribe to catch the next time's photo book and also catch news every single week. Thank you again for watching. You can leave down below all the comments you want about this photo book, photo books I should critique, and much other things. Whatever you want to comment down below. Just don't be too crazy.